Have you seen Chuck Norris lately? He's still kicking butt and staying active well into his 80s. What's even more shocking is he looks more jacked than ever and seems to have more energy than guys half his age. And it's all thanks to Morning Kick, a revolutionary new daily drink from Roundhouse Provisions that combines ultra-potent greens like spirulina and kale with probiotics, prebiotics, collagen, and even ashwagandha. Just mix with water, stir, and enjoy. Unlike other green drinks out there, this one tastes exactly like strawberry lemonade and has hundreds of 5-star reviews. Go to roundhouseprovisions.com/save44 for up to 44% off your regular priced order. Plus, every purchase is backed by a 90-day money-back guarantee. So if you want to experience smoother digestion, a boost of energy, and just an overall healthier body, then go to roundhouseprovisions.com/save44 today. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Results can vary.
That's the sound of your current hype level at the gas pump. But brace yourself for something fuel nominal, because Unleaded 88 is about to take the hype to a whole new level. Unleaded 88 is cheaper, cleaner, and greener than regular unleaded. Plus, it's homegrown, making Unleaded 88 the clear choice at the pump and totally worth the hype. So pump it up with Unleaded 88, brought to you by Iowa Corn.
The following podcast may contain discussions supported by science that may be considered dangerous to some listeners and conspiracy theorists. Discretion is advised.
The 3 Down Greencast is brought to you by the Pile of Bones Brewing Company. Home delivery available in Regina at sassbeerdelivery.ca. Welcome to the 3 Down Greencast. You are listening to the internet's only general booty podcast. I am Joel Gasson with John Fraser as usual. And yes, we will get to the big news in the world of football this week, and that is, of course, the Oklahoma Sooners landing transfer quarterback out of junior college in the United States. One, the only. He better be neg listed, Mr. General Booty.
I don't know if we're the only General Booty podcast that doesn't discuss general booty, like booty in general. Like, I feel like there's probably a couple podcasts that discuss booty in general. But in terms of the best name, and dare I say it, professional sports, faithful listeners, if there's a better name than General Booty, please bring it to my attention, because there is, to me, there is no better name, and I'm all in. I just wish that General Booty was a kicker.
That would work. That would be great too. Yeah, that'd work. Yeah.
Right? Like, I enjoy the fact he's a quarterback, and as a play-by-play man, you have to say booty about 60 times a game with a straight face. Booty in the gun. I'm just trying to think of that after watching some horrendously bad play-by-play last week that I normally don't text you when I'm watching bad play-by-play, but it needed to be done. It
would be difficult to be like bootying down the field. Like, I feel like you could easily get caught up on that.
Booty on the bootleg.
Yeah.
Booty on the naked bootleg. Here we go. General Booty on the naked boot. It's a 7-yard gain and 1st and 10 for the Sooners.
Yeah. Booty play action.
Okay.
Booty's under center.
I know that my play-by-play dreams are now basically officially dead, as we discussed a couple episodes ago. But I almost need to, like, bribe somebody or, like, make it, like, my dying wish to call a game with General Booty in it. Like, anybody, if you've ever listened to my play-by-play and how unserious I take myself, I feel like I could work in so many, like, booty jokes, little booty shake there to shake the defender, the booty spin. Yeah, it would be...
Booties on the ground.
Booties on the ground. And now I want to maybe research later if there are other podcasts about General Booty. I feel like it's a science.
Let's be realistic here. The guy's transferring in from junior college. It's hard to say. I mean, he could go on to become a professional football player, but to me, if we're going to see him anywhere, this is the guy that just screams that he should be in the fan-controlled football league.
I was thinking you literally stole the thought out of my head. I was sitting there, I'm like, No, he needs to make the fan-controlled football league so I can just like call the booty naked boot every single time.
That, or he will be in, I think, doesn't Vince McMahon in WWE have a program with NCAA athletes now to like try to help them become wrestlers?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Because he doesn't even need to change his name, though Vince still might make him so he can copyright it and trademark it on the name because that's what they do. But
they could make
in theory, he could become a professional wrestler and not have to change his name.
In theory, yes. Or he could be Sergeant General Booty, Sergeant Slaughter's like grandson who's back to take on the Iron Sheik. And I know the Iron Sheik is not there anymore, and that probably would never fly in today's day and age, but man, bring me some old school Sergeant Slaughter. I think I still have back in Atacocan. I think I still have like my Sergeant Slaughter action figure. I know my mom kept like all my old WWF wrestlers, and I've been waiting. I haven't been back there for a couple of years now, but we've been waiting to take them out so the kids can play with them. And I feel like this is finally going to be the year. So I know I definitely have Hurricane and Earthquake. Who doesn't love a big fat guy that throws guys around the ring? So yes, General Booty in the WWE would be absolutely fantastic. Or do we? I know our good friend Graham has voiced a spot, even with COVID. Graham took the time to voice the lettuce update stinger for us. Maybe we just call it the General Booty update.
I mean, maybe. I mean, we'll have to keep track. We'll have to see kind of how the offseason progresses for Oklahoma. And if we need like a General Booty update or boot date or General Booty update, I don't know. We'll come up with some kind of name for it that's more than just General Booty update, I'm sure.
The boot on the booty?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's funny, for both of us being very creative guys, ask us to do anything on the spot and we're basically screwed.
No, like I'll text you as like 2 hours after we're done this and I'll have something. But right now in the moment, I'm like, you kind of threw this on me. I don't know.
The joys of going off on tangents, but no, 100% we will have the booty update and the Sergio update. And this might just become a General Booty full-time podcast, depending how long this strike goes. And like Joel,
I mean, we are experts at now talking about the CFL without any actual games to talk about, are we not?
Holy shit. I would say, like, have we had a normal season doing this podcast?
I think the very first one.
Yeah, that was about it.
Yeah, probably.
And now we've
maybe the second one, too, I think. First and second, maybe, and then after that, yeah.
Then after that, it was COVID. It was the long off season, then COVID, and then the shortened season, and now we got a player strike. And I do feel like, though, the CFL labor stuff, it brings me back warm and fuzzy memories to the last time that there was a CFL labor dispute and you and I were still both, covering the team.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, fully intended, like, because peel back the curtains a little bit here. Usually you go into training camp, especially when you're into, like, the second, third week, with some kind of idea on a story you're going to do. Usually something that you or Murray or somebody did a week ago to just kind of give it enough difference. So the go-to is always like the last day in Saskatoon fluff piece. That you stick a microphone in somebody's front of somebody's face and they're like, Saskatoon is great. I love Saskatoon. Wish we were here all the time. The fans are great. So that, you kind of look forward to that. And I'll never forget having that Saskatoon fluff piece all riled up, and then Ricky Foley went off for 12 minutes in one of the greatest interviews I still think I've ever done, and too bad he's crazy now. But regardless, that's why this brings back so many memories, this CFL labor dispute, and again, now the Fraser curse of having a podcast just keeps screwing with the CFL seasons.
Yeah, as they're both sides, I guess you could say, are dragging their booties around a little bit right now.
Oh my God, I almost got buttoned up. I know something.
More so one side than the other. Of course, we will get into basically the only topic of discussion in the CFL right now, which is the labor dispute, the strike, whatever you want to call it, what's going on. And
that burned.
We certainly have some thoughts on that, but as usual, before we get to all of that, John, what just came out of your nose and what's in your glass this week?
My go-to, a little Lucky Bastard vodka, a little bit of that on ice. It's been a bit of a week already, and it's Monday. So I made sure to pour some of that.
What a week, eh? Lemon. It's Wednesday.
Right.
Or is it Tuesday? Might have got the meme wrong. I don't remember.
I don't. That's either way. I get to play hockey tomorrow night. I'm looking forward to skating. But yeah, tonight is a start with vodka, transition to beer kind of night. Lucky bastard, and I must say that especially after the deliciousness of the Ukrainian dance fundraiser in Lloydminster, I'm very much back in a Lucky Bastard kick. I have a bowl full of lemons upstairs. I got a big old thing of Lucky Bastard, and it literally, like, it burnt. Like, that one, like, try doing a spit take with what's probably, oh God, how do I pour my drinks? Probably like you've seen it. It's like 3.5 to 4 shots of vodka is usually what I sip on during the episode, and
like 3 or 4 fingers, yeah, probably.
Oh, at least.
Yeah.
I actually have a Lacey was wise. One of my stocking stuffers was it's a skull shaped like shot glass that seals up your bottle. But like I start with a double. And then I like get doing something, like I just got the kids to bed, then I had a couple sips, and I'm like, well, I got to go down to the basement and record the podcast, so I put another one in there, and then I got busy doing something else, and now I put another one in there, so I don't know how much vodka's in there, but all I can tell you is when you laugh real hard and it goes up your sinuses, it definitely burns. Tastes great, burns in your nose.
Probably cleaned anything out that might have been in there, though, at least.
It's true, actually. I've been fighting my allergies since I went golfing on Sunday, so I feel like suddenly... I have some freelance voice work to do, and I feel like it's going to get done after this podcast tonight.
Sounds good. For me, I picked up a Nokomis mixer pack for the weekend. Probably my favorite in all of the province. No offense to any of those around there. Just all 4 beers, just so entirely solid for me tonight. I just noticed that the IPA label now says Classic India Pale Ale.
Interesting.
I didn't realize the Classic was there before because they do have the modern IPA out as well.
Ooh.
I guess the color wasn't enough differentiation for Jeff, I guess.
That's fair.
Anyway, yeah, so always solid beer. Needed something a little stronger, a little more bitter tonight for sort of the conversation we were, of course, going to have. Cool little fact about Nokomis, I guess. Jeff is in the middle of sort of redesigning his packaging a little bit. They're going to be printed on cans and going to smaller sort of plastic holders that are apparently going to be biodegradable by the end of the year. So really trying to cut down on the environmental impact of his business as well, which is always very cool.
Hey, no, that's a double kudos from us. Yeah, that's a delicious beer and being environmentally friendly. And they're still staying. The thing I love about Nokomis is the small cans. They're still staying with those. They're not going to the tall boys.
As far as I know, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. You know,
I know I've talked about this with Jeff, and he prefers the small cans. He's like, I don't know, I don't want to drink a 473 of a beer I don't like. Not to say that he doesn't like his beer, but that's just generally his thought, or a beer that he like totally perfectly in love with. Right. Which is weird because he makes, in my opinion, some of the best beer on the planet. Yes, so his beer could be in like a 900 milliliter can, and I'd still drink it all, no problem.
Right, but no, that's fair. I still feel like it's nice if and the price point is right if you want to try something new with those guys. Mm-hmm. Right, like there's lots of stuff I look at from all our other favorite breweries, including our sponsors, that you just know is going to be good, but maybe it doesn't fit your palate.
Yeah.
Right, like first time I tried a Cat's Got the Cream, I heard all these good things. It wasn't really my thing, and I'm like, I would have had to spend $17 on it to try it, right? So I like that a lot about Nokomis.
Fair enough. No kudos, or at least not a lot of kudos going around right now. Between the CFL and the CFLPA. Yeah. As we've discussed here, we're once again here on a football podcast talking about how they are not playing football. Hey! And in a way, I think there was kind of a lot of mixed emotions about this. I think if you read between the lines on some stuff Justin Dunk was saying, or not so between the lines on some programming he was on leading up to the week, that you probably, this should have been, we should have seen that this was coming. But I think there's still a lot of people, given sort of the history of negotiations, and especially these kinds of negotiations, and especially the history of this league, we all, I think in the back of our minds, many of us thought that there would be sort of an 11th hour, maybe a 14th hour kind of deal that would eventually get done here. And then it all kind of spiraled really quickly when late last week the league put out their quote-unquote open letter from Randy Ambrosi with that outlined their side of their offer, at least. And when it first came out, I think on the surface, a lot of us were like, okay, there's some stuff in here that makes sense. It looked fairly decent. Nothing, that can't be ironed out. But then more you kind of thought about it a little more, you read into a little bit more, and a few more details started coming out, and you're like, oh, yeah. Because it was basically a take it or leave it offer. The apparently from numerous people we've seen talking about it, that there was no further meetings planned. This was it. On top of it, also it being not a super great offer, even, as much as they tried to dress it up, once you kind of did the math and you looked into it a little bit, it was like, oh, no, I actually see why the players are like, thanks, but no thanks.
See, as much as I hate being on Twitter some days,
mm-hmm.
I love the collective hive mind and how quickly they pick this apart. Like, I think it was within about, because, again, when it came out, I was real busy at work that day, and you and I briefly chatted about it, and, in my brief skim, I'm like, that looks pretty good. Got busy, actually did work for about an hour, came back, and I think by that time, guys such as yourself, Jamie Nye, Farhan Lalji had all kind of had a chance to digest it and regurgitate it. Mm-hmm. And quickly you went, this is not great. And the thing that drives me the most crazy about all of this, and this just goes through all sports. Anytime a league goes, this is our last offer, walk away, F you guys, double-barreled middle finger, does that ever work? Has that worked in the history of any labor stoppage ever? It hasn't.
No.
It absolutely hasn't. So why are you doing it? Why are you trying to do that? Say, this is where we are comfortable going. We need you to come to our side a bit. You talk, you finish it. Maybe it's because I literally spend most of my adult life negotiating, whether that be with banks to get people approved or with customers over, prices and interest rates and things like that. It drives me nuts when you see that approach. It's our last offer, walk away from the table. No, sit your asses back down and figure this out. I don't think there's anything, this is not, you and I were talking off air, that you don't need an economic reshaping like the NHL did.
No.
Where both sides were willing to, that was their hill to die on, and the NHL won out because it was billionaires against millionaires. We're talking...
What I always remember about that NHL lockout, that the whole season was lost, what always makes me laugh, and the owners should have accepted it in a heartbeat, was when the PA came out and said, okay, we will do a salary cap that wasn't attached to revenue, $40 million, done. That was it. And the owners are like, no, we need cost certainty. And I was like, okay. And now the cap's twice as higher than that now?
I think they said for next year, even after COVID, it's going to be $85 million, I believe. Yeah, that's the thing that always made me laugh. But, and everything you read into, and let's just get out ahead of this. You and I are both very pro player in this. And the CFL, I am a firm believer of the term numbers never lie. I kind of live my life by that.
Yeah.
But numbers can be manipulated. And when you saw that $18.9 million increase the cap, my eyebrow went up. I went, that's significant. That's good. I like that. And then when you quickly realize that's just covering for the minimum wage increase.
Yeah.
And you're just taking that times 9 teams and then extrapolating that over 7 seasons to make it look bigger than it is. It's $100,000 a year, which is not insignificant, but I think it needs to be more, right?
Yeah.
I think too, the revenue sharing thing, there was a lot of good. I loved the partially guaranteed contracts.
Absolutely.
I loved the rules that they were talking about being able to take one player and say, for all intents and purposes, this guy's Canadian.
I wish they didn't essentially drop down the ratio to do it, but yeah.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's...
Because everyone's going to find that American player to do that, so you're effectively only going to have 6 Canadian starters. But by sounds of a lot of things, the league might have pushed to try to go even further down with that, so holding it at 6, I guess, is kind of a bit of a win. But anyway.
Right, and I love the fact, too, that and I don't care if this just leads to a whole bunch of teams stacking their third quarterback with Canadians, that the Canadians lining up a quarterback are actually going to count, because all of a sudden you've got a guy like Nathan Rourke who's just a ratio buster. That is the ultimate ratio buster if your starting guy can be Canadian, right? I think that's going to encourage scouting.
With the whole 2 quarterbacks allowed on the field now, that's a spot you can throw a guy like him out there in a different position even, right?
That's exactly it, right? It allows for so much so much flexibility, and it's just like there was so much good that came out of that, and then you got into it, and it's like, eh. And then we started talking to some of our sources, and it's like, oh, okay, it got even worse. I know you and I have called for more practice on this podcast. You and I have called for more coaching on this podcast, but I don't think you need to do that in the form of padded practices.
Well, and like here's so Farhan had the tweet a couple days ago about sort of the 3 sticking points for the CFLPA, and this is kind of what's holding the whole thing up, and one of them is padded practices. And I don't think the players are necessarily against padded practices. I think they see the benefit in it. They just want a approved health and safety package to agree to it, which I think is entirely fair, because 12 practices, from what I've heard, kind of puts them in line with what the NFL allows throughout the course of a year.
Right.
And we all know that, the players understand the risk of football, and all of them, to a man, every single one of them to a T, is willing to sacrifice their bodies on game day, which is understandable and fair. But, we're talking about practice sometimes, right? And you don't want to have to go through, a grueling week of practice only to not have nothing left for the game, which is not only a health and safety issue, but just a general competitive issue, shall we say. But, the theory is also that there is some benefit to some contact in practice throughout the season. I think I can agree with that, but I think also, yes, the players deserve a better health and safety package with or without the padded practices, quite frankly.
Well, that's it. You can't have players that are scared of blowing up an Achilles and not being able to work, make a living, get paid, no matter whether that's in football or whatever they do, right? Yeah. I said this to you over text. I said this almost seems like the CFL's going for more practice, but I feel like there's some compromise in the outdated, you only get a few hours per day to be with the team rule, right?
I don't think the full details of that have been put out there yet, but it seems like there's a little more flexibility in that, where basically you create like you're a full-time employee in lieu rule around it, where you can schedule, say 5 hours one day, but another day's got to be 3 hours to make up for it, basically, right?
Right, exactly. And it's just because I think you and I talked a lot about this, that rule, although good in its design originally, when guys
literally work 2 jobs during the season to make it work,
exactly. Like when you were a part-time whatever, and
you practiced in the morning, then you went to work in the afternoon/evening.
Exactly. And that rule had its time then, but like I think now, and especially with the CFL, one thing I did like, because that's been one criticism I think of the PA and the CFL in the past, is it tends to be top heavy. I mean, you look at the league, the PA, kind of really before this iteration of it, and it was like 6 Canadian offensive linemen who, let's face it, will always benefit from the ratio rules, everything like that. Now you got a guy like Adam Bighill, who, although he's been in the league forever, and I think might as well be Canadian because he is friends with a curler, good friends with a curler, he's still American.
Yep. Well,
right?
Solomon Elamimium is still the president, isn't he?
That's it. Yeah. So that's it. You're led by a couple American players, and I liked seeing the minimum increase because I know that was a bit of a sticking point last time, and that's not insignificant, right?
The original increase is good. I think it should increase a couple more times throughout the length of the deal, rather than, okay, here's a bump to 70 in year 1, here's a bump to 75 at the end. Okay.
Right. No, I agree. And I think too, I think what the CFL and the PA need to look at in terms of that is, 70, 75 grand out here in the prairies. It's pretty good living, especially for essentially half a year, right? You can make a decent go of it at that money out here on the prairies for that kind of dough. That's still not enough anywhere close enough to live comfortably in Montreal, BC, Toronto. So I'm with you. I'd like to see some more increases in that, help the new players out, because I think if you don't do that, you do legitimately run into, and you and I have talked about the amount of talent that's out there, and you'll always find players that are willing to play.
Yeah.
I think the last thing you want to do is make it easier for guys to go to the XFL.
Yeah. And I think that's, and this is sort of the hammer that, we've talked about this before as well, that the players for the first time ever in these negotiations, really actually have a strong, firm hammer. One of them is the XFL coming next year, and the other, and Chris Milo tweeted it earlier today, today being Monday, that thanks to the pandemic, a lot of players have figured out how to live without football.
Yes.
And so now they're willing to take the risk this time around, because before it was always eventually the league knew these guys are going to fold because they need the paycheck. Well, you know what? They just went a whole year without football, a lot of them.
Yep.
Some of them longer even, because they maybe weren't in the CFL before the pandemic. The pandemic hit, they had nowhere to play, and now they're here. So these guys are pretty used to not playing football at this point, quite frankly. Yeah. So what's another few weeks or however long it takes? Hopefully it doesn't take that long. But what's the issue here? Why shouldn't we take this risk right now? If there's any time ever in the history of the CFLPA to really take a strong stand, this was it. And they get bonus points by adding the extra pressure point on the owners, which is their free money games are coming.
Mm-hmm.
Those preseason games, while generally a bore, and the media kind of begrudges them, the fans are kind of not really that into them. It is a big revenue source for every team in every sport, because you don't pay the players in those games.
Right. And this isn't like the NHL where guys have huge signing bonuses and things like that. Like, again, outside of room, board, and making sure they're fed, they ain't playing nothing for these guys, right? So, I'm with you, and I'm glad to see the players take a stand, because I even thought the last time you and I covered this, and I remember saying this to you, that I thought the players showing up without a CBA was a weak move.
Mm-hmm. Well, they got kind of caught with their booty out, I guess you could say, by not understanding the Alberta labor laws at the time. Right.
The Alberta labor laws just basically mean you got to show up for a couple days before you can go on strike.
Yeah, which is sort of sidebar. However long the next CBA is, the players should negotiate for, let's say, instead of 5 years to 40 years and 11 months. So it expires in in April. And all the players can go on strike at once. Maybe that would be a smart idea next time. Maybe.
Probably. Instead, we have this weird, bizarro world where, you're watching the Alberta media cover their teams. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, here it's like, nothing's happening. I mean, Murray
and I'm sure our premier's not getting any ideas about that.
Oh, no. Don't bring him up. But speaking of the government, I feel like, and this goes back to the players holding the hammer, unlike even the last work stoppage, you now have a brand new facility in Winnipeg. You have a brand new facility in Regina. You have a heavily renovated facility in Edmonton. You have a new facility in Hamilton. You have a renovated and part of a larger development thing in Ottawa.
Mm-hmm. You have new owners in BC.
Right. So you
have Calgary that wants a new stadium.
Right, and a new rink for the Flames, which they also own. So
you have I guess still relatively new ownership in Montreal.
Right. Yes, I forgot that they got away from the old owners. Right. So it's one of those things. I feel like at some point, like, what the hell does Saskatchewan do if because you and I discussed this last time, that I think if this season goes away, the CFL is on its deathbed. Mm-hmm. But what the hell are you doing if you're a bag holder for the province of Saskatchewan with this beautiful, beautiful stadium and nothing to put in it? Right? We talked about, at least like Tim Hortons Field, you got pro soccer, Ottawa, you got some pro soccer. What the hell are you doing with Commonwealth? What are you doing with IGF? What are you doing with Mosaic Stadium? Right? So I think the players are smart enough to know this, to know that, you've got governments that are into these things for hundreds of millions of dollars and obviously putting pressure on it, right? So I hope, like, I almost want to say, like, to not Fraser curse this, I almost want to say this is going to be a long strike. I can't logically in my brain think of a way why, where this goes on for a full season, a half season, anything like that. Like, it seems like they're so close. It seems like, to quote one of my favorite lines for the league, it seems like they're in the vinegar strokes of this thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, and another good sign you and I were talking about, that there's still rider players here in Saskatoon. Like, if all hope was lost, if they were so far apart, I don't think you'd see him. There was just a tweet right before we started recording. Dan Clark tweeted out that there's a whole bunch of the guys at Ignite Athletics here in Saskatoon that are training.
Mm-hmm. Well, they held the offense practice at the minor football field. The defense practiced kind of by Griffith Stadium in one of sort of the empty fields around there.
Yeah, there's a soccer field right beside there. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're out doing things, and they're trying to keep in shape and all that, which is good. Of course, obviously for the PA, the other pressure point, revenue sharing.
Right.
They have an issue with basically not all revenues being tied to it, or the whole thing basically not being audible, which is entirely understandable. That only people that have something to hide would not agree to this, because this is basically the standard across professional sports that have some kind of salary cap / luxury tax system is. That the league and the players both sort of give their okay on it,
right,
before any sort of announced cap increases are. So what are the owners trying to hide? I mean, that's basically what it comes down to with that. And they have an issue with the length of the deal as well, which I can understand, but that's easily negotiable. It's really the two big things, which of course health and safety and sort of the way the revenue sharing works.
Right, and it's funny. I forgot to mention this to you before we came on air, but this reminds me of a little bit of the National Lacrosse League lockout. And it may not even be a bad thing, but one of the things I've been told from my time being around the NLL is that the NLL teams, because of lower expenses, essentially using the same staff and everything like that, despite, still charging you $10 a beer when you go to a game at the Saddle Dome, $10 for a Labatt Blue, which is an import beer in Buffalo, New York. A lot of these teams that are owned by, the Calgary Roughnecks are owned by the same guys that own the Stampeders and the Flames, everything like that. The Buffalo Bandits are owned by the same guys that own the Buffalo Sabres. One thing I've been told over and over again is that those teams make a lot more money than you think they do. And I think maybe that's part of it that they want to hide. You don't want to find out that, and I guess it's a little different because you're using different venues, but what if the dirty little secret came out that even with, 4 people there, the Toronto Argonauts are finding a way to make money? Or the Calgary Stampeders are making more money than the Flames or the Roughnecks, right? So I see why they don't want to do it, and it's a damn shame that they don't. But again, this doesn't have to be public information. I don't think the PA is asking for this to be public information.
As much as I would appreciate it being public information,
right?
It's not going to be, and it doesn't have to be.
Right. But it's just, it seems like one of those things that you're so close to basically say, okay, your people talk to my people. I know, the way the NHL does it, the NFL, everybody else does it. They basically, the PA hires their firm and the NFL hires their firm, and they look at the numbers and everybody goes, yeah, you got 50%. Yeah. Okay, we're good. Let's move forward. Right. Mm-hmm. And realistically, the PA only in the CFL, they only want to do that. If I'm not mistaken, Joel, was that only on like new and growth revenue streams, or was that on the entire cap? Like, I don't think they're aiming to fix the cap to revenues, are they?
I'm not entirely sure. They should be, quite frankly, but
right.
I don't know exactly where it goes. But if, the league has talked a lot, and I know a lot of people put a lot of, fault in Randy Ambrosie for saying these things, but he's just a mouthpiece for the owners.
Right.
The league has been saying a lot that they want to form a partnership with the players. Well, this is literally how you form a partnership with the players. So clearly you do not actually want to do that. You want to put down your labor, and you want to try and, keep their costs as low as humanly possible without giving them access to what's actually going on. So, sorry, you can't have it both ways. And it gets to sort of the comment, that Dave Naylor said on TSN 1200 this week, or I guess today, Monday. He was talking there, talking sort of about what's going on with the strike and the whole thing. And he said, the quote here from on the CFL, at CFL News here, tweeted it out. Pressure points are on the horizon and coming for both sides. The league doesn't like, and this is the really fun part, the league doesn't like the PR hits they're taking. Actual lost revenue that starts on Monday, first preseason game. Oh, you didn't like the PR hits you're taking, eh? Well, maybe you shouldn't have put out a completely stupid, PR stunt to try to get fans on your side with a deal that didn't make any sense whatsoever for the players, rather than just, continuing to work on getting a deal done, because I think everyone can see the groundwork is there, but you decided just to give up thinking the players would fold again, and now you're just kind of sitting back, caught with your booty on the ground, not knowing what the heck to do next. Because you really thought the players were going to fold, and they didn't.
And
Good
they had
job.
no reason to.
Yeah.
Like, that was the thing. Like, it amazes me how the guys with all the money still manage to blunder all of the PR.
Well, and this
single
is
time.
just this sort of another picture, another window into the guys running this league and the problems this league continues to have is because, as Brett Lowther said, it's an old boys club, and they
Right.
they fully there's for lack of a better term, maybe it's not the right term, but there was sort of a degree of arrogance around the whole thing from their side,
Right.
and they got caught, and now it's they need to be humbled and get back to the table and, actually work with the PA to find a solution here, because, they're not looking to, have a year-long strike to end the league forever because they want to get out. They are just, they got beat. For the first time, you can say they got beat. Now, in the end, the owners always end up winning the long run, but in these negotiations, they finally got beat, at least in this one game, and now they need to, sort of pull their pants back up and get back to work.
No, absolutely. And it's a damn shame. And this goes back to, what I had said about the whole, why on earth this whole best and final offer we're walking away that has never worked in any labor negotiation basically in the history of ever.
I mean, you say it sometimes, but you don't actually mean it. But clearly, for some reason, the league meant it.
Which was dumb.
Yeah.
Which was so dumb. Like, get back together with the players. And like I said, it seems like the players have that sense of optimism, right? And maybe they're just waiting to let their brothers in Alberta go on strike and be a part of this for a little bit. But you're right. Like, those free money games have way more impact than I think anybody knows. And I think people are itching, like, not to get into a greater COVID discussion, but I know after having COVID myself and having it come through my house, I was more okay with going to events. Like, I went to a Rush game. I'm probably going to the Rattlers home opener. I was looking forward to taking my kids to a football game this year. And sometimes the cheapest and easiest way to do that is the preseason, right? Like, I think people are itching for it. Like, our Ends Christmas party was on Saturday, and I stayed out till 2 a.m. And anybody that knows me knows I am a peak early and go to bed early kind of guy. So I think people are itching for it, and I think that's going to be a huge impact. And how the owners aren't at the table, like, I think they're doing themselves a disservice not being at the table trying to save these preseason games, because logistically, how the hell do the Bombers and Riders play here in the coming days if you don't have an agreement basically tonight?
Yeah, well, the report is if it's not done by Wednesday, there won't be a game. And, I mean, whether there should be a game in the opening week of training camp is another discussion for another day.
Right.
But as it currently stands, I don't think that game on Monday should be played.
No, I absolutely don't. I mean, not a single veteran player is going to play that. It's going to be mistake-filled and messy and things like that. Although I am eagerly awaiting the first call of my friend Derek Taylor doing a preseason game, and my lawn could, if the preseason game was still happening, I could probably wait to mow my lawn till Monday, because I've spoken about my love of listening to CJOB and mowing my lawn before. But yeah, then I should probably mow my lawn tomorrow. But I'm glad the players are making this stand. I'm glad they realize they have the hammer, and the Fraser curse is so strong. I don't want to be optimistic, but I think that maybe I should be, or maybe I should just say it's all doom and the sky is falling and the XFL needs to come over, and then suddenly realize I'm not Dave Naylor playing both sides.
I mean, yeah, maybe. I mean, I think there's reason for optimism. It's the ball's basically in the owner's court at this point. We're going to learn a lot about them in the coming days. That's basically what it's going to come down to. Right.
And I guess my only frustration, I'm proud of the players. I'm proud of everything they're doing. I think it's well-deserved. I think they should be doing it. I think my only frustration is, like, it's so close, and it feels like something should get done. I just want a normal season to the podcast. Like, I love General Booty Talk. I do. I really love General Booty Talk, and I love the fact that you and I have somehow managed to basically do 3/4 of the episode of this podcast's life without there actually being any CFL. I just want some damn football to talk about, Joel.